Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors PM meeting for Thursday, May 19th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. Just a reminder that for the meeting tonight, a recording device will be used. And I'm going to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to open the meeting up tonight with the public comment for agenda items. Just a reminder, rules of public comment established by Resolution 2001-08. The time allotted to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional time may be granted by the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. Do I have any public comment for agenda items?
One comment in reference to the...
Sorry, I got to do this already. Mr. Chair, if you would approach the
I thought
lectern.
maybe with the late. Bruce Rawlings, whoa. Planning Commission. I have one statement in reference to Mapleview. They would like to come back and make a additional plan submittal for the, what they've already shown us.
Okay.
I know the Planning Commission made a statement saying that we're going to recommend going back to the original plan, but they want to make a new presentation at the 6/1 meeting of the Planning Commission. It's up to the board to do what they want to feel, but I just wanted to.
Perfect.
My conversation with Don is that's what they would like to do.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, Board of Supervisors, May 5th AM session.
I move we accept the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer's report and authorization to pay bills.
I have reviewed the reports, and I make a motion that the reports be accepted and the bills paid.
I will second, with the exception of, Luke, did you want to do your township manager's report tonight?
I do.
All right, so I'll go ahead. Let me just second that, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. As you may recall from previous meetings, Chester County was awarded approximately $102 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds for 2021. The county announced that it in turn was accepting applications for funding requests from municipalities, public authorities, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. I'm pleased to announce that both the Township and the Municipal Authority have submitted applications which were due on May 16th. The Township's application was to fund part of the Culbertson Run at Hideaway Farms floodplain restoration project. This project, contemplated by our MPDES pollution reduction plan adopted by this board in 2018, is consistent with the goals of the American Rescue Plan Act. My thanks to Vice Chairman Crawford for taking the lead in writing this grant application. I have a final resolution on an ongoing discussion item for the board, and that is a solution to a mechanism to facilitate Planning Commission involvement in variance and special exception requests. The Planning Commission's role, as outlined in a publication by the Governor's Center for Local Government Services, reads in parts: the MPC provides that at the request of a governing body, a Planning Commission may present testimony before any board. This would include testimony before a zoning hearing board conducting a public hearing when considering a request for a variance or special exception, or a governing body conducting a hearing on a conditional use application. The difficulty in considering the Planning Commission's request was scheduling a Planning Commission, which needed to occur before a Board of Supervisors meeting, which in turn needed to occur before a zoning hearing board, all due to the applicant. I'm pleased to report that the zoning hearing board has agreed to move their standard meeting date to the second Thursday of each month. This should reduce application processing time by as much as 30 days and give the Planning Commission an opportunity to weigh in on applications prior to the zoning hearing board's regular date. The reports of the Township's appointed auditor, BBD LLC, are now available on the Township's website and are attached to this report. My thanks to Lisa Velitis and Jan Benarchik for their work in facilitating BBD's review of our books. Brief update on the comprehensive plan project. The Ordinance Task Force reviewed a first draft of the new comprehensive plan at their meeting on Wednesday, April 27th. The Ordinance Task Force has been working with consultants Thomas Committa Associates and the Brandywine Conservancy for about a year. This project has been funded in part by a generous Vision Partnership Program grant awarded to the Township by Chester County. Per the consultant's scope of work, this initial draft will be revised 3 times, the following points. 1 revised draft after the meeting that happened last month. That is a process that's ongoing now. There will be a 2nd revised draft following a Planning Commission's public meeting, and a final revised draft at the conclusion of the Chester County's Act 247 review. The next step in this process is a presentation by the consultants at a public meeting of the Planning Commission. This is scheduled for Wednesday, July 6th at 7 p.m. in this room. That'll be the first public unveiling of the draft comprehensive plan. I also have an update on the Chester County Model Stormwater Ordinance. The Chester County Board of Commissioners has adopted a resolution to amend the countywide Act 167 Stormwater Management Plan for Chester County. This would replace a 2013 model ordinance. As a municipality with an MS4 permit, East Brandywine Township must update our ordinance to be consistent with the updated countywide model ordinance by September 30th, 2022. The county's adopted model ordinance has been submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for their final review and approval in accordance with Pennsylvania's Act 167. This review is not yet complete. A notice will be mailed to each municipality once final approval has been obtained from DEP. On May 6th, staff participated in a county-sponsored workshop with details about the implementation process. The action item here is the Ordinance Task Force will be reviewing the county's 2022 model ordinance and making recommendations to the board supervisors on the very few items that are at our discretion for our own ordinance to be considered in perhaps August or September of this year. And lastly, just a brief summary of the upcoming events. On May 24th, there will be a Memorial Day ceremony and flag display. Parties interested in participating in setting up the flags in the community park may show up at 6 p.m., and those interested in the ceremony should show up at the same place at 7 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Township Manager.
Thank you, Matt. Did you want to do anyone tonight?
Mine's real short, so sure. On Tuesday of this week, MDG, the developer of Hillendale Development, started widening and the overlay of Township Road. The road will be widened to 20 feet. We look forward to completion of the project. And today I was speaking with Matt McAloon of Pannoni. It appears that the widening will be done on tomorrow, and I believe the asphalt will be placed in the widening either tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow or Monday. So the widening part should be completed. We're not sure when the overlay will be completed. Last week, we completed the replacement of a cross pipe located in the area of 5 Gloucester Drive. This is in anticipation of repaving Gloucester Drive, and I want to thank the residents for their patience during the temporary road closure. We continue to work with FEMA for repairs after Tropical Storm Ida from September 1st of 2021. On Monday, we began work on a temporary repair to the Bondsville Mill Bridge. This work includes placing concrete bin blocks, which are also called Legos, and pouring 2 feet of flowable fill at a time. The work requires 7 lifts until we reach the asphalt bridge approach. We anticipate the work will be completed by the end of next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Good evening. The Police Department's report for April 2022. Total monthly events recorded for East Brandywine was 2,258. We completed 179 investigations. There were 7 criminal arrests, 2 summary arrests, 4 warrant arrests. We had no juvenile petitions. The department investigated 9 traffic accidents. We issued 174 traffic citations. 69 traffic warnings were issued, and officers logged 9,630 miles of patrol. Training completed. Corporal Juan Lemus attended handgun instructor certification school. The entire police department completed our 2022 firearms training, and the department also completed the Chester County District Attorney's Office LEAD certification program, which is a drug diversion program. You have 2 correspondences. One is from Chief DeMarco to Corporal Dan Orris, thanking him for assisting them in their detective interviews. And resident Melinda Tweed sent us a thank you email for speed enforcement that we were conducting. And you have copies of the monthly investigations and officer activity reports.
Thank you. And the fire department, fire department.
Good evening. East Brandywine Fire Company had 52 total incidents for the month, 28 fire calls, 24 medical. There was 10 fire calls in East Brandywine Township, 12 medical calls in East Brandywine Township. If you look down, we did have 1 significant fire on Tradition Lane. It's estimated fire damage at $35,000, and the resident was quite lucky. Their dehumidifier burned up in the basement of their house, luckily on a concrete floor in a concrete basement. But the significance is the damage is, I talked to them just yesterday, and insurance is upwards of over $70,000 now.
From all the smoke.
From all the black acrid smoke from the dehumidifier burning, yeah. We averaged 11 persons per call, 15 firefighters for building fires. We had 3 training with 28 firemen in attendance. To put that in perspective, for that house fire that I talked about, we had 15 folks there, and 4 of the surrounding fire companies totaled 12 people. So as I continue to report to the board that volunteerism is down all around the area, we are lucky to continue to strive, and we just took in 4 new members last Wednesday night. To piggyback on Luke's comment about the grant to Chester County, we also applied for some of that money through Chester County government. The builder now tells us that our target date, finally, is July 18th for renovations of the building to be done. They've started carpeting, painting, and finally doing some interior stuff. So we're moving along.
Just something that dawned on me, saying that you guys are going to be done in July, and I know you guys were party to the elections being held at the fire station in the past. I know Hopewell Church no longer is doing the elections at their facility, and it's something you might want to bring to your board, because the reason why it dawned on me for you guys is because it would be great to allow people to get in there and see that you have space for rent and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just something to think about to get on the list if you guys have any interest. If you don't, that's absolutely fine, but I figured I'd mention it to you.
Right. Yeah, that brings up a point that I forgot to, 2 things I forgot to say, sorry. First of all, last evening for the Chester County EMS Council, and Mr. Rawlings is in attendance here, but his wife Kathy, a member of our station, was given the highest EMS award for Chester County. It's the Margaret Bingham Award for service, and as a member of East Brandywine and the former Tower Health, Kathy received the highest award in the county. So we're very proud of that, and Bruce was in attendance. So also, due to a significant, you may start to hear this, but due to a significant contribution to the firehouse, the entire upstairs of the firehouse is going to be deemed the Whitmer Conference Center at East Brandywine Fire Company. So you'll see that signage going up, but due to their support, we, former Chief Jim Whitmer and his wife donated quite a bit, so we named it the Conference Center after him.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the April Planning Commission minutes?
I move we approve the April Planning Commission minutes.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Old business, we're going to go on to Luke for the 7 Maria Court stormwater issues.
Yeah, if you'll recall, we had a homeowner resided at 7 Maria Court raise some concerns about a pool project at the adjacent property. I can report at this time that Township Stormwater Engineer Bob Flenschbaugh met with the concerned resident on site, and that a report from the engineer is pending.
Okay, thank you. And I'm assuming somebody will let him know what the report is when we have it?
The letter will be directed to the concerned resident.
Perfect. Mapleview plan changes.
Yeah, as
he's not gonna
Chairman
comment today.
Rawlings indicated in his public comment, it would be appropriate to table the Mapleview plan changes in light of the applicant's decision to return to the Planning Commission to get a different recommendation at their meeting on June 1st.
Perfect. And then we're going to go to new business, which is the appointment of.
Could I have a question on that?
Absolutely.
On June 1st, how many plans are they going to present? Just one new one?
One new one.
All the others
All the others
have been
gone.
retired?
Yep. So it's a one new plan that they're presenting. So we can still go back to the old original one,
Or this one new one?
one new one, correct.
Okay.
I think it was fair that we wanted to make sure it was in a public realm, that the public knows about it, and they can have a chance to make comments on it, because not all, I'm sorry, Luke? He's asking me a question, I'm sitting.
Oh, I wasn't close to the microphone either, so you're not the only one.
So I didn't think it was fair that the public didn't have a chance to make comments on it. I know there were some members that weren't there of the community that were in favor of the plans, and there was more against it, but that was, as you know, usually the ones that are against something come out in numbers, and the ones that don't really know about it don't make any statements. So we just want to give the opportunity again.
I'm excited to see what he's going to present because, to me, he's down to valet parking.
Yep, at Crawford's.
Right, and that's about it.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on. I've got so many papers in front of me. Give me 1 second.
If it helps, there are no packet materials for agenda item
Oh, we don't still-
7A.
Okay. All right, so then we're going to move on to the Cedarville proposal for professional service.
No, I think we have to.
No, I'm sorry, I
Approve.
meant there are no packet
Packet
materials
doesn't mean
for
we
you to
don't have
identify,
to-
but that does not mean that it is not an action item.
Go ahead, okay.
Yeah,
I'll make it go ahead.
Okay, well, just a brief reminder, at a previous meeting of the Board of Supervisors, the board executed a agreement with the municipal authority to have an employee of the township assigned exclusively to municipal authority duties. I'm pleased to announce that we've identified a candidate for that hire. Her name is Ashby Corfey, and at this time, I'd respectfully ask the board for permission to hire Ms. Corfey as the municipal authority's secretary.
I'll make a motion that we hire Ms. Corfey as an employee of East Brandywine Township to be subcontracted out to the municipal authority.
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and Matt, I'll turn it over to you for the Cedarville proposal for professional services.
Now you got a handout.
We received a proposal from Mr. Kyle Turner of Cedarville Engineering Group for our 2022 paving bid contract. This year, we're planning base repair and overlay for the following roads: Gloucester Drive, Berkeley Drive, a small portion of Raleigh Drive, Township Road from Seven Springs to Mount Ida Mobile Home Park. Additional work includes minor base repair on Timber Pass and then microsurfacing Timber Pass, Banyan Lane, and the Cumberland Ridge development. There's approximately $380,000 budgeted for this year's projects, which includes engineering costs. Excuse me. This year's Cedarville proposal total is $18,000, which includes two bids. We're breaking it into two bids, one for paving and another for the microsurface. Most paving contractors would more than likely hire a subcontractor for the microsurface with a markup. And the proposal also includes roadway coring for Township Road. This will assist us to determine the scope of work, and I respectfully request the Board of Supervisors accept the proposal from Cedarville Engineering Group for $18,000 to provide contract documents for our 2022 road program.
Okay, are there any questions?
No, I actually reviewed the proposal. I agree with Matt's logic.
As do I. Do I have a motion?
I will move that we accept the Cedarville proposal for professional services in regards to the 2022 road program.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Subdivision and zoning applications, Resolution 8 of 2022, 170 Crawford Road, preliminary plan approval, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Brewer.
Good evening. Adam Brower with Edward B. Walsh and Associates. Also with me is the applicant and property owner Greg Wagman. We're here in front of you tonight requesting consideration of preliminary plan approval. We would go back to the Planning Commission then for final. This is a project on the west side of Crawford Road. It would be a two-lot subdivision. Mr. Wagman lives in the larger of the two lots being created. It's basically a 13.5-acre property. The one lot that Mr. Wagman would continue to reside in would be about 10.3 acres. And then lot 2 would be the new lot at slightly over 3 acres. And that would be the one that would have a new single-family residence placed on it. You can see, thank you, Luke, for putting that up. You see some lines there through the middle. That's representing steep slope area, which pretty much also coincides with the wooded area. The new house on lot 2 would be located up closer to the road with the stormwater right there. And then, thank you. And you see a sewer lateral going up, well, in essence, up the hill to the west to assist them up at the top. That's where they were able to get passing perk tests. They did go, when I say they, Mr. Wagman went through your zoning hearing board for the special exception to disturb the steep slope for that system. And we have Mr. Klein's letter of May 2nd. It's down to a finite list of comments. I will tell you, of those comments, one was with respect to the a historic report, rather, and it's for the house on the other side of the road. Lisa was kind enough. I did send her the report, and she had that placed on the agenda earlier this month, and Mr. Wagman attended that, and I believe it was a unanimous recommendation with regard to, I guess, accepting that report. And basically what the crux of the report was really to make sure that the new residence was buffering that structure. And again, they gave unanimous support of that. So be happy to answer any of your questions you might have about the project or review comments. I don't want to necessarily take up more of your time than need be.
Begging your pardon, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think it'd also be worthwhile to recognize Township Solicitor Tom Esty to talk about any of the prepared resolution.
If there weren't any other questions, we prepared a resolution which has the effect of approving the preliminary plan, and it has 12 conditions. One, that the final plan comply with unresolved comments in the May 2nd Pannoni letter that Adam mentioned. The final plan comply with comments of Matt Van Loo, Township Roadmaster, including apply for and obtain a township driveway permit for Lot 2 and some construction on the wing wall opposite Newman Drive. 3, the applicant shall obtain and comply with recommendations of the Township Historical Commission. Adam just indicated that that's already been done. Applicant pay a fee in lieu of providing active open, recreation area. 5, applicant pay a transportation impact fee. 6, applicant township form developers and financial security agreements if it's determined that that's even necessary. I'm not sure there are any improvements on this subdivision that will have to be financially secured. 7, the applicant obtain necessary outside agency permits. 8, applicant execute and record standard stormwater operations and maintenance agreement for the stormwater facilities, and if determined necessary, an operation and maintenance agreement for the septic system on Lot 2. 9, the applicant reimburse the township for its costs and expenses. 10, that the conditions shall be complied with by revisions on the final plan. And 11, the board grants a waiver from code sections 345, 305, and 345, 306 requiring stormwater infiltration, subject to the township engineer's approval of a suitable stormwater management and control design. Finally, the board denies the requested waiver of code section 350-13, which requires separate preliminary and final plan submissions. The planning commission was against combining preliminary and final, so that waiver is being denied, if that's the agreement of this board.
And did I hear you correctly? It's set for steep slopes. Is it, if I can't see the bottom of this, but I can see the house you said is at the top of the hill, and then it's on a hill going down?
The house is sitting level with Crawford, and that's fairly flat. That's actually a hill going up. So the sewer's at the top of the hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering about the pump.
Right,
Okay.
so it'll need a pump, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and if I may add, the relief required by the zoning hearing board was for the transmission line crossing the steep slopes area.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's not the correct term, but the pipe.
Conveyance.
There we go.
Understood. Do you have any questions?
No, I attended the planning commission meetings on this, so I'm familiar. I think actually the stormwater mitigation plan that they have will reduce the stormwater coming off the hill or control it better. So I don't see any problem with the steep slopes.
Okay. All right.
If I may, I had 2 additional concerns from the plan that I reviewed, and I don't know if they're resolved or not. The one was the plan showed a 25-foot right-of-way on I guess the south side of the property. If that right-of-way was deeded to the township, which is normal procedure, the majority of the barn ruins and spring house would have been located on township property, and that was a concern of mine, especially the barn ruins, possibility of some liability there due to the drop-off into the barn itself. So I don't know if that was resolved.
I mean, you're right. I mean, the right-of-way as shown would be there. I guess I would say any more a fairly standard process that a township will ask for right-of-way when a plan comes in. I think everybody would agree we're certainly not anybody's in favor of removing the structures. I'm sure there's historic value. So absent removing structures, then I guess I would ask the township if because of that concern, which I appreciate, if in fact they do not want us to give the right of way in this case, which I think.
Well, I would think it would be a liability either way, whether it was township or yours.
And I think the township needs to decide at final plan whether you want to accept that right away or not.
You always have that up as
And
well.
I'm just not familiar with the structure. When you say a drop-off, is it like a 9-foot drop into a cellar, so to speak?
Not 9 foot, probably more like 4 feet, 3 to 4 feet, with 2 stone structures on either side of it. So it's, the stone piers are there, and then it's open in between the two stone piers.
Are there walls?
Not really, just piers.
Right.
The stone piers are, what would you say, 10 feet high or 8 feet high, something like that.
I mean, I think,
It's part of the ruins of the barn, and I understand the historical significance of it. My concern was a liability issue. Currently, the property owner owns to the center of Crawford Road. You can, on the plan, it does show that that's what it is. And then the township has a 16.5-foot right-of-way,
Right.
which gives the township the right, but not the responsibility of anything that's within that right-of-way.
If this is
the-
an historic structure, are we
Right.
going to restore it or anything? I mean, if you don't restore it or do something with it, to me, it's not an historic structure anymore.
It's a safety issue.
Right.
That's beyond me, so.
When it doesn't belong to the township. I think what the
Right.
board needs to consider is whether there's ever any likelihood that Crawford Road is going to be widened. I was told at the planning commission that that seems unlikely. So you may not want to take any additional right-of-way, because you don't have additional right-of-way anywhere else on the road, as far as I know. Maybe across the street you do, where the other subdivision is, but.
Yes, and
So
on
then,
up,
if we don't take the right-of-way, then there's no issue about the barn ruins, and they remain the barn ruins of the property owner.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily, I saw Bruce, you had your hand up, I'll let you hop up here real quick, but the only thing that concerns me is the one pier leaning towards the road. If that were to fall, it looks to
And
me,
that's, the other one's leaning, looks like it's leaning backwards, too.
Is this located on Lot 2?
yes. I'm sorry, lot 1.
Oh, it's on Lot 1, so it's on the lot that's currently occupied. I mean, that issue, it seems to me that maybe you ought to go to the historical commission and ask them whether it's worth saving. If it's not, have the owner demolish it if he's willing to do it.
If I may, I can say on behalf of the applicant that the applicant did go to a historical commission meeting. The question was not about the removal or preservation of the ruins, which I would presume their answer is yes. The question was, would they support the addition of guardrail there? And they did not. They did not want to see guardrail between the existing roadbed and the historic resource.
so if there's no significance for the township to incur the liability, and I don't even know if there, it sounds to me like there would be no liability other than,
Well, if we don't take the right-of-way, we don't have any responsibility for those ruins. I mean, there is obviously the possibility that they fall into the road.
yeah.
And we would have a responsibility to remove whatever falls into the road.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset we don't need a headache, but what do you think?
Being a new supervisor and being quite a historical buff, and growing up on a farm in Bucks County that probably had 20 of these barns, you can't save everything. I don't know why, I don't know if it has any significance. Was there a special family there? I mean, to me, the column should be taken down. Whoever the owner is, and I don't understand, a guardrail, right, would make no sense, because now you're degrading if it is historical. I don't know why it's historical.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, it is a very rural, very narrow road.
Right.
I'm hard pressed to believe
People aren't
anybody
going to drive
speeding.
by it to go find it.
I mean, if it's
I
a,
use that road only as a shortcut to Marsh Creek occasionally.
that's true. But it's a narrow road, and clearly you cannot, I mean, I don't care what you're driving, you cannot drive fast on that road. If it was a road that people are doing 45 miles per hour and it's windy, I get that concern. I think this is a little different situation than that. You know, candidly, you have a lot, I mean, the historic house on the other side of the road is right next to the road. I'm not sure where you start looking at situations and saying this is a problem, this isn't. With regard to the column or that wall, I can appreciate your point. I think if it's structurally sound, it is fine. don't want to speak for Mr. Wagman, but if it's monitored and found to be structurally unsound or potentially, going to fall, then that's something that could be reevaluated.
So the Historical Commission did not request that you, as the current owner, stabilize it or anything?
I mean, in fairness, and Greg can speak to it, I think their focus was on the house, candidly.
The house, to me, is entirely different than the barn.
But I mean, that was truly the focus, I think, of the study, I believe.
The house. Right, that's
And the
what I
spring
would think.
house. Yeah.
Right, so when I summarize the Historical Commission's review, I mentioned the question about guardrail, but the primary reason why the applicant appeared before the Historical Commission is because this subdivision is adjacent to a historic resource, and the historic resource is actually the house across the street, which I've got projected on the screen here.
I mean, Crawford Road used to be a dirt cow path.
Right.
Mr. Brower, you mind if Bruce comes up for a second?
By all means.
So, this is on Lot 1, not Lot 2. Normally, you would have a right-of-way, 16-foot or 17-foot right-of-way from center line. I'm not sure what Mr. Wagman would like to do with that. Do you have, what's your long-term plans of that particular wall or pillar?
The barn?
Yep,
I've been repointing it.
that's what it looked like. And I think historically, or it gives the ambiance of all that tied together. So I think whatever can be done to keep it there, but if the township at some point needs to take it down because of the widening of the road, the township needs that ability to have that in their easement. So somehow it could be written out that the township has the right to remove if needed. But right now, I think it adds a lot to that community and that little historic district on left and right of the road.
Luke, can you flip back to the picture where you were originally, nope. Yep. All right, so I don't have a problem taking the easement and taking the responsibility. I think that one pillar leaning, what I'd love to see is that capped halfway up and maybe mortared at the top, just so that if it does fall, I mean,
That's,
ifs and buts, I mean,
Well,
but can
that's
you
what-
imagine a month from now if that thing falls and hits a car and we were just talking about it and
Yep.
did nothing about it?
once
So,
once it's mentioned, then you're liable.
yeah, so I would say, if the township were to take the responsibility of the easement, that would be my only request, that wall
That would
be taken down, I would say, what is that, about 8 feet tall?
It looks like it's 12 feet tall.
Yeah, it looks, it's hard to tell from this angle, but,
So Greg, what are you?
but if the property owner is willing to, repoint it and cap it, I guess what Kyle was suggesting is reduce it down to a less lethal height.
See the one at the beginning, the one that's about 4 feet tall near the road? Clearly, if that falls, which just doesn't look like it would fall that direction, it looks like it would fall into the barn, cellar, so to speak, that looks of no danger to anybody. This one leaning, it looks to be 6 to 8 inches towards the road, concerns me. So that would be my only request on that, is that be cut in half and the pillar top covered with cement.
If I can maybe give an alternative for you to consider, I appreciate your point with that. The alternative would be if the property owner who is working on securing it, if you will, be permitted to demonstrate to the township that they're doing whatever improvements are needed to make it structurally sound. And if that was something that the township would look at and say, okay, what you're laying out as a plan to secure it is going to be satisfactory to assure the township that you're not going to have that type of situation.
I respectfully disagree, only because that's only gonna last so long, and then if there's a easement and the township owns it, then we're responsible every so many years to get an engineer to sign off on it, and I just think it's an incurring cost that we don't need. I don't know, that's my take on it, if that pillar could get cut down to, say, 6 feet, capped with mortar on the top, and happy to take the easement off. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I guess I basically agree with you. If the landowner wants to stabilize it, I think we should give him permission to make it safe while he's doing it, and by removing the excessive height. I mean, but I also understand if you want to, if the landowner says, no, I want to preserve more, then present a plan to us. The question we haven't decided yet is who's going to own it?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I would have no.
I mean, if the
I would have-
township owned it, I would pretty much knock it down right now.
Well, but just be, I mean, there are other places in the township where structures are in the right of way.
Right.
So we don't technically own the structure, it's a road right of way, it's still owned
Right.
by the property owner. It's like a tree in the right of way, it's the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. So I think it fundamentally, you need to decide whether you want the right of way at all. I mean, generally speaking, I advise that if it's offered and you can get it, take it.
Right.
Because you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yep.
Even though it seems right now that that road's never going to be widened. So you could agree to accept the right-of-way, you know, subject to some condition. And Mr. Wagman's here, I mean, maybe he can tell us with more detail what the condition of it is, and we have anything.
Well, as I said, I think my mind's made up. I would happily have the township accept the right-of-way with the exception that we
Yeah.
take that pillar down to a safe height, and I would say that would be someplace in the 6 to 7 feet, and then capped with mortar. And I would be very content with that, and I can't see incurring too much cost to do that. It's you know, it would just make it safer.
Can I make one more comment?
Yes.
So I don't know if there's a little bit of confusion maybe for two different types of right-of-way that are located within the township. Most of your newer developments, there's a 50-foot right-of-way, and the township has deed to that particular property, to that road, and generally about 16 feet, 12 feet probably on both sides of the road. And but in this case, even though the township currently has a 16.5-foot wide right-of-way, it's not township-owned property. The property owner owns to the center of the roadway. So it's, what I'd seen in the one plan was a 25-foot right-of-way, and that would be actually dedicated to the township and become township property.
Say
That was
25, are you talking 12.5 feet from?
No, 25 feet from the center.
Center,
Right,
right.
Yeah.
right, so 12.5.
Right now, it's
Yeah.
16 and a half only.
Right, but it's not township property. If it was
Right.
25 feet, and like they said, they would offer it to the township's dedication, then that would become township property. We would have deed to that property, and essentially deed to that 3/4 of that barn. Which, that was why I wrote what I wrote in my review. So if the.
It seems to me that maybe we ought to just, as I said at the outset, we can defer this to the final plan decision.
I'd like to ask a question. Sure. Discuss that. So if we accept it, whether it's 16 and a half or 25 feet, and for, let's say it's 25 feet, and that, you said it's about 2/3 of the structure there, can't we simply ask to submit a plan as to what,
If I may.
as a condition?
If the township's inclined to accept a fee ownership 25 feet from the existing center line of Crawford Road, then it would have to be subject to an obligation of the landowner to continue to maintain the barn and releasing the township from any liability.
Well, that's what I was trying to get out. you're much more eloquent than I am. Or, I hate to say this, but there's only a few people in the room, just take the thing down.
The historical
I mean,
commission's not going to want you, hear you say that.
I know that, but it's an advisory commission, and you can't save every bill. You know, on the side story, I developed a piece of property here 30-some years ago, and the historical commission said, it's the oldest barn in the township. You can't build what you want to on that property. I researched it. The barn was built after the Korean War, and the owner of the barn wouldn't even store his tractors or anything in it because it was so crappily built, it wobbled. It wasn't the oldest barn in the township, wasn't even on the oldest foundation, so
Well,
the historical,
Yeah, if I may, I think as Luke indicated before, the historical commission did not even consider this issue. So maybe the thing to do is to send it back to them before final and get their view on what should be done.
they might want a new barn built.
Well, that's exactly, so here's the thing, Mr. Wagman, you're here, so I'm happy to talk to you directly if I don't want to put you on the spot. You understand my stance. It's a leaning pillar. That's the only part of that whole thing that concerns me. If that were able to be cut down 4 feet, 5 feet, and just capped off at the top, what is it, about 3 feet around, square? Okay, if that was able to get done, I would be happy today to go ahead and accept the easement and pass the responsibility of keeping it safe up to you going forward, and we could move on, and we don't have to get the historical society involved.
Right, I don't want them really
If
involved.
you're okay with that, great. If not, I'll leave it up to you, and if you have a better idea, I can't think of any, not being that property.
Right, well, obviously, I mean, I'm a history buff, studied history. I'm not interested in removing any historical structures. That's why I'm repointing the barn. Now, if you are worried about the safety factor of the column, I would say that while I would rather not, I guess I'm willing to take down part of the column if it's an easement.
Well,
If you're
willing-
taking
you
dedication,
mentioned you were willing to repoint it.
I am repointing it
Well,
right now.
that might save your,
Yeah, but the liability of that, because it is so close to the road, I'm not.
I understand. It is close to the road.
Yeah.
There's no question, and it's at
And-
least 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
So I'm not sugarcoating that. My question is just whether, are we going to call this an easement, or are you taking dedication? If it's an easement, I'm prepared to agree right now to take down a portion of the column and continue the repointing, and I'll cap off the column. If you're taking the property, then I'm not going to do that work for you. It's just, now you're taking the problem. So it's a question of, I will go on either route. I'd prefer not to do it if you're worried about the safety issue.
right. And
It's a
old-
reasonable
and
concern.
repointing doesn't replace the old mortar that's inside, and that old mortar was really crap back then.
Oh, it is, oh, I'm chiseling out the old mortar. It's just sand. It's bad mortar.
Tom, what's your preference to the board? Would you recommend the easement or the dedication?
In this circumstance, with those structures in the right-of-way, I would recommend that we accept an easement 25 feet from the center line of the road.
You guys have any comments on that?
You saying accept the easement?
Set the easement 25 feet from the center line, and then Mr. Wagman would drop that top off of that.
Right,
pillar.
he still essentially owns it.
Right. He's responsible.
Yeah, if you'll forgive me a moment, I don't know where or what record had indicated that it would be offered in fee to the township, as in the underlying land right would be transferred to the township. I might have missed something, but I thought it was, as it indicates on the plan, proposed to be the right-of-way offered to the township.
Well, I don't know what's written on the plan, but as Matt indicated, the modern practice is for the township to take fee ownership, like the roads and all the new developments. We have a fee strip for the road 50 feet wide. This road is an ancient road, and it's a presumed 33-foot right-of-way. We don't own Crawford Road. We have a right-of-way over it. So it probably makes more sense in this circumstance just to take the additional amount as right-of-way or as an easement, not fee ownership.
And if I may, there's always, the typical language on the plan is it's irrevocably offered for dedication.
Right.
I've heard it go back and forth, is that and I don't know if they picked 21 years thinking the adverse possession, but my understanding is sometimes that's implied to mean 21 years that the township has to take that opportunity to take the right-of-way. In that scenario, the township doesn't have to take anything. It's there. If you need it 15 years from now, you go back and take it. I mean, I think that may be the way to handle that is it's just there offered and continues to be offered.
The difficulty with that is 15 years from now, the owner, he doesn't want to convey it to us, and it causes problems. So it's best to just make a decision now and require that the applicant give us a deed of easement for the additional
That's fine.
right-of-way. And then he's responsible for the structures that remain in the easement. And if you want to add that as a condition of the resolution, that's fine.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay, so then let's go ahead and change change it to the easement as stated by our solicitor, with the inclusion that the maintenance portion would be done by the owner of the property right now, which would be to drop that said pillar 6 feet, 5 feet, something in that nature, safely, and cement top that, just for keeping the water intrusion out. And Bruce, if you have anything else that
I agree with the easement, sir.
okay, and so we'll do the,
I agree with reducing the height a little bit.
just to be safe, and it's just that one pillar, not, obviously not both.
He's doing a great job trying to renovate it.
Yep.
Restore it, look good, so I think it's a good thing. And come up front.
All right, so we'll add that to the resolution that, do you want to read your resolution number for acceptance, and then we'll just,
All right. I make a motion that we approve Resolution 8 of 2022 involving the conditional, the resolution is a conditional approving the preliminary land development plan as amended by the comments made by our solicitor.
Perfect.
And chairman.
all in favor?
If I
You got a second
may,
or
before you vote, as much as it pains me
Yeah.
to question something that's about to get, I think, an approval, with all due respect to Mr. Van Loo with the comments, he does have two in there to speak to guide rail, or the potential. And I just want to make sure, since that's part of the resolution, to
Well-
adopt all his comments.
No, it's not, and that's, when we prepared this, I intentionally only included the driveway permit and the wing wall issue. The other items are not in here, except now we've added that we're going to
Sure.
accept that, what we just discussed.
Right, and the
We
driveway
don't
permit.
want a guide rail.
Yeah, driveway permit, certainly agree, understand.
Yep.
The wing wall is not part of this, I mean, it's on this frontage, but it's part of another project. And I don't think it's reasonable to burden this application with fixing that wing wall. This application does not drain to it, it rather discharges onto the property.
Matt's gonna have to, is it part of the development across the street that he did?
I believe it is.
And was it required to be fixed as part of that development?
Not, this is the first I'm hearing it.
Well, Matt, you're gonna have to address that, I guess. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over.
I'm sorry, we were.
No, understood. I was only saying with the wing wall, I mean, it's not part of this project. I mean, I'm not debating what you're saying is
Right.
valid or not. I just don't think it's appropriate to have this project repairing what needs to be done if this project is not creating a situation where it's exasperating a problem with that wing wall.
So was that wing wall placed part of the development that was across the street?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. Was that part of that plan? Because I don't recall
We definitely extended that pipe, yeah, correct.
extended the pipe, but, so why is the wing wall 3 feet below the road surface with a bunch of rocks piled there? Again, with the danger of the the danger of that barn's, the barn wall standing up.
Well-
Rocks piled along the road becomes a,
I mean, that's the first, Kaylee, your review is the first that was brought to our attention. I mean, with all due respect, certainly the township inspected the construction of that development. Just looking at this plan, it appears to be outside of the right-of-way. I mean, obviously, you've looked at it. If it's something that's a safety issue, that was improperly constructed, I mean, that's certainly, understandable that you're making that concern, or bringing that concern up. I would simply say it's just not reasonable for this application to fix it because it's not part of, this project has nothing to do with that, that's all.
Sorry, if I may. I think we spoke about this before, and if you want the rocks removed, I'll remove the rocks. I put the rocks there as the property owner that this is draining on because sticks and branches and limbs washing across in major storms were coming over and spilling into the riprap. So that blocked them essentially from going over into the riprap. If you want the rocks gone, I'll take the rocks away.
yeah, any chance that I get to remove any type of hazard along a roadway, that's what I do. I'm very safety-minded with roads within the township.
Sure.
And again, those rocks are not on township property, they're within the township road right-of-way, but.
Happy to remove them.
All right, and I guess that just before I second, the only other thing was obviously the removal of that wall, pillar top would be before dedication, so it wouldn't be something you have to do tomorrow.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
so,
just to finish up on, we were just talking about item 2B, which requires the adjustments of the wing wall. Are you going to require that or not require it?
I say since I think it would give Matt an opportunity to think about this, maybe we'll
Revisit it final?
yeah, revisit that at final. So if we can put the wing wall issue at the final, that would give Matt an opportunity to do his due diligence.
Yeah, I'd like to revisit the plan from across the road and also and talk to our engineer who was out there doing the inspections at the time.
Okay. So, Lisa, you're gonna hate us, huh? All right, so.
She already went home, she's done.
So, everything in the resolution, including what we just talked about with the solicitor and with the roadmaster and the chairman, as well as we're going to defer point 2 pertaining to the wing wall to the final plan approval. And I'll make that the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
guys.
much. See you at final.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, direct a question to the solicitor. Thank you. Tom, I'm about to go out on a little vacation here for a week. Will you write the letter memorializing the terms?
Yes,
Thank you very much. And will you also draft a revised resolution?
I will, tomorrow.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
You got it. Okay, so Carl, I'm going to turn it over to you for the variance application for 238 Patriot Lane.
Okay, I attended a special planning commission meeting on Tuesday night, and that was our first meeting to enable the planning commission to have input on zoning variance applications. One that came in on May 10th, I believe it was. And the resolution of the planning commission let me back up. The purpose of that was to be the eyes, ears, and to give the supervisors input, so that if they found something that they wanted to find objectionable or positive or whatever, they would ask us, the supervisors, whether we wanted to go to the zoning hearing board or whether we would defer to the planning commission. The result of that particular discussion was the planning commission decided to take a neutral stance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. And being there for the for the presentation, being there for the presentation, I personally took objection to the neutral stance or the outcome because to me, when you have a zoning hearing application, there has to be, I had all that stuff right here. There has to be yeah, did you take the one off?
No.
No, let me borrow. There has to, the variance has to be where it's alleged that the provisions of the zoning ordinance inflict an unnecessary hardship upon the applicant. And I didn't feel there was a hardship inflicted upon the applicant, first of all. So, second of all, the applicant is in an R2 cluster, which allows 20%. He currently is 2 feet short of the 20%, 2 square feet. And with the, and got a little confusing. He presented that he wanted to do it in 2 steps, but everybody said, you better do it in 1. First step being a pool, the second step being a stamped concrete patio deck. And I also have been attending the zoning ordinance task force. We've all agreed that we're going to look at and review our impervious coverage. It seems to be somewhat over the years become haphazard, and I would like permission of my fellow supervisors, my fellow supervisor, to represent the township at the zoning hearing board to present my objection until we're done with the ordinance task force and the studying of the density, the impervious coverages. It may be determined, and Luke, even though he's going away for a week, has already started the process. We're going to check other townships, other municipalities, what they do. We may come up with 25% is okay in cluster 2. So it really is, as a supervisor, it's our job to enforce our zoning rules. Even if we don't like them, then we can change them. So that's why I want to oppose, because it isn't a violation of our zoning rules, and there was to me, no hardship at all. In fact, I think it was stated at the meeting, there's no hardship here. Even the gentleman was in front of me, and he said, there's no hardship. So that's I'm asking for a vote to let me
May
testify.
I add something by way
Sure.
of explanation?
Yeah, this is kind of new to me.
As Carl indicated, the current impervious is 20%. It's a couple feet short. In order to install the pool and a small amount of coping around the pool, and this is a fiberglass, bring it in, put it in the whole pool, not that that makes much difference, but the impervious coverage would go, if memory serves, to 21.9%. In order to do the rest of the project, it would go
25.4.
25.4%. So I'm only commenting because I don't know whether there's a distinction in your mind, Carl, between not objecting to the 21.9 and objecting to the rest.
No,
That's fine. I just wanted to clarify
I
that.
may be wrong, that's what the zoning hearing board is for, but I'm objecting to making to allowing a variance to our current zoning when we're in the process of reviewing it
Okay.
to change it, when there was no unnecessary hardship that was presented. There was none presented at all. In fact, the comment was made by the applicant that I could always make the deck smaller.
Correct.
Well, and it was stamped concrete, so he could make the stamped concrete smaller.
Right. So anyway, that's what I'm,
So before you make any comments, I'd like to make a comment, so.
pardon me?
I'd like to make a comment to this. Fire.
All right.
Wow, can I? Absolutely. Okay. So, over the years, with the planning, I mean, our little review of these things, we've made 3 decisions. One, no comment. Comment why he should be denied, or comment why he should be. So our no comment basically is what we've had the other night. Carl, you said you don't like that particular thing, and then we would turn it over to the supervisors or the zoning hearing board. But we want to have that opportunity to make comments if we need to. So on this particular one, we probably should have made a stronger comment, but I was overwhelmed by that room and the noise and the background and the chitter chatter between everybody. I couldn't control it. It was I was pretty overwhelmed by the end of that meeting. I don't feel that he should be getting 25%, but I couldn't really make that statement because there were so many things going on.
No, I understand, no, and you bring up a great point. It was the first meeting, it's a bit of an experiment.
Right.
So,
But I think we still should be able to have that no comment if we don't want to comment on, or I look at Lisa and say, we don't even need to bring this to the meeting. We should have the ability, no comment.
well, I have another point of view. Even if you would have, to me, the no comment is not the purpose of having you hear it before it goes to the zoning hearing
Right.
board. Because you're an appointed board and you're somewhat here to insulate us and to help us.
Right.
Right, and so even if you would have, the planning commission would have said, yeah, we agree with it, that's okay, that would have been better than no comment, to me. Or we disagree, and we don't agree with it. And then I was confused also, because then you got into a lot of other issues that had nothing to do with the zoning hearing board.
But there are issues of like, how's he going to access this thing? Is he going to be driving over top the stormwater field? And
But those are all handled by our engineer, right.
but he was saying it's like a
It's
cut
not
and dry
like
grading. There was no really true grading permit on this thing.
I mean, normally those applications don't go before the planning commission.
Right.
So,
Well, I think the process is
well, we're learning,
we're learning.
right.
So I would highly recommend you going to the meeting. I think
Pardon
I highly recommend you go to that zoning meeting.
Right, I would think the planning commission would want the supervisors to enforce the zoning
Right,
ordinances.
correct. But I just wanted to make, there's 3 stages, I think.
And it may be a temporary one only. I mean, I feel sorry for the gentleman, but that's why we have ordinances.
Right.
I mean, supervisors only have like 5 things to do, and one of them is zoning.
And signing checks.
No, public safety and all that other good stuff, right. Thank you.
Yes, so to answer your question.
So I would make a motion to allow me to represent the supervisors at the zoning hearing board on June 9th, I believe it is.
And I'll second.
In opposition to the application?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I don't think we have any ordinances and resolutions for consideration now that are we doing the one?
We could change all the impervious coverage right now if we want.
Any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we're gonna move on. Any notices? Do you still wanna?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so following this meeting, we're gonna meet to discuss personnel and legal discussions. I don't think there's anything else unless you can think of anything, Luke, right?
No, but I would clarify, just for the record on the sunshine law, the purpose of the executive session to follow this meeting is to discuss the personnel matters, hiring, firing, promotion of a particular employee.
Understood. In executive session, we will do so at the conclusion of this meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.